AT&T dropping nearly 4% today, now down more than 11% since they reported earnings last week. Our next guest has had a $17 price target on T dating to last August. Let's bring in MoffettNathanson's co-founder, Craig Moffett. Craig, great to have you with us. You're so close to your price target, so congrats on a good call. In terms of what has happened, though, since earnings, what do you think finally dawned on investors? Because from what I read when they first reported, everything was sort of fine. I mean, they stuck to guidance. You know, the business is not growing, but there was no reason for the stock to decline this much.
Well, yes and no. And first of all, hi, Melissa. It's good to be back. So I guess a couple of things. The first thing I would say is what obviously struck people was free cash flow was $1 billion. I mean, this is a company with a $16 billion target for free cash flow for the year. And while admittedly some of the miss was the expectations were around $3 billion for the quarter, so it came in about 2/3 light. Some of the explanations are reasonable, some timing of CapEx, some timing of receivables and particularly payables. But it certainly puts them behind the 8 ball for the full year on free cash flow. And look, that's the only reason to own this stock is the dividend, right? I mean, they're paying a $7 billion dividend and they generated $1 billion in the first quarter of free cash flow. So that's alarming on its face. There are bigger strategic issues here, though. That's the real problem.
I'm sorry, Craig. Hey, it's Tim Seymour. Thank you for joining us. And boy, I wish I had listened to you probably not just in the last year, but maybe in the last couple of years. And you've defined in your note that the wireless game is becoming a zero-sum game, and it's going to come down to competitive advantages. Please articulate what those are for AT&T at this point. And I think we know what they are for T-Mobile, and they've crushed it. But please, please examine that.
Yeah, Tim, I'll tell you, you mentioned a couple of years. I started covering this name in 2006. The stock is below where it was when I started covering it in 2006. Right. So this is not a stock with a track record of a lot of shareholder value creation. And the struggle is, look, Verizon differentiated itself with consumers and businesses for years with the best network value proposition. T-Mobile differentiated itself with best price proposition, and now arguably it has best price and best value, or best network. It's never been entirely clear what AT&T's value proposition was in the first place, other than we give away phones to almost anybody. It doesn't have to be a premium price plan in order to qualify for a free phone. That's expensive business, right? They started resubsidizing phones after the subsidy model had gone away at tremendous cost to free cash flow and ARPU. And they still haven't gotten out of that trap because they just really don't have a terribly compelling customer value proposition. So at essence, the real problem is you start from what they're selling customers is arguably just overpriced relative to what it is. And now you have this additional problem that the industry growth rate is really finally starting to decelerate and fall back down toward a much more sustainable growth rate that is probably reasonably close to the population growth rate. And then layer one more piece on this, and that's that the cable industry is now pricing wireless way below where the wireless players are. They're using Verizon's network, so the network is just as good. The prices are lower, and they're taking more and more market share. So what's left for the incumbents to fight over is getting much, much smaller.
Craig, thanks so much for joining us. Price target 17. We're just a couple % away from that. Appreciate your time. All right, so you said you would wish you listened to Craig, mainly because you are a shareholder.
Yeah, I'm also a shareholder of T-Mobile, and I'm a customer of T-Mobile, and I'm really happy about that. By the way, people used to malign me for being a T-Mobile customer, but it's been great.
Oh, that's
say that. No, okay. I mean, what more can I say? I've been long AT&T, but I've been long T-Mobile.
6G, get ready for it. This is what we're going to hear. You know, we heard for years like 5G was going to be
has to be on for these guys.
Yeah,
again,
it's not great if you're T and you have all that debt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.